Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Condiracci, but others call me Mr. Pixar, if you can't tell already. And I'm here today to give you a tour of one of the most well-known animation studios of our time. Pixar was founded as a division of Lucasfilm as their computer graphics group in 1980. 6 years later, Steve Jobs purchased and renamed the company, and while they were independent, some of their earliest work included commercials. You have Tropicana, Listerine, The Lifesavers, and Trident. Those aired throughout the late 80s and early 90s, as well as original short films like Luxo Jr., Red's Dream, Knick Knack, and Tin Toy. And those were throughout the later 80s. So that caught Disney's attention, and in 1991 they entered a film partnership, and this became the world's first feature-length computer animated film, Toy Story, in November 1995. Their relationship renewed up until their 2006 acquisition. Disney and Pixar went under the same roof. And to this day, they have produced now a total of 25 feature films, with one, Lightyear over here, on its way for June 2022. And of course, having grown up with films like these, it wouldn't surprise you that this would lead to a lifetime of obsession. This isn't even the end of it, ladies and gentlemen. Anything you can think of, Mattel, Hasbro, Thinkway, Cars, Toy Story, WALL-E, Monsters, Inc. This is just a small sample of what I have. Back home, my walls are lined with shelves and all of these displays.
So just to be clear, Michael, this is your house?
Oh yeah, this is only part of it, I should say. But if I sold all of this right now, just to put this in perspective, I could pay off my TCNJ debt. My lifetime obsession has fortunately led me to visit the studio a total of 4 times in 2010, 2011, 2014, and most recently 2019. So I thought I would give you all a tour from the place where the magic happens at 1200 Park Avenue in Embryville, California, just outside the San Francisco Bay Area. We start at Pixar's front gates. You gotta start in style. At the starting line, of course, you're greeted with the Cars logo right when you drive in. It was Cars 3, most recently since the 3rd movie, and for the 2nd one it was Cars 2. There's me at the front gates after my most recent visit. Now, Pixar's campus is smack dab in the middle of an industrial park. They're really secluded where they are in Emeryville. They're smack dab in the middle of the city, surrounding similar buildings. That's why you'll take note of the steel and brickwork you'll see present in the rest of the architecture. But in their space here, this encompasses a total of 5 city blocks in Emeryville. They have their main building. They have an outdoor amphitheater, which they've used for music festivals, car shows, and most recently, working at a COVID-safe distance outside from one another when they started reopening the studio. There's also a pool and tennis court just in between the main building and their archives building, the West Village. And then there's my favorite element, a giant model of Luxo Jr. the lamp and his ball right up front. And over here to the side, there's 10-year-old Michael during his first visit to the studio in November 2010. And there I am, nearly 10 years later for my most recent visit. And if you're wondering, no, the ball didn't get smaller, I just got bigger. After you introduce yourself to Luxo Jr., your first stop is the Steve Jobs building, aptly named, of course. And right in front is their main atrium. This is a primarily sunlit, open floor plan space where creativity basically thrives at Pixar. Everything is completely open concept. You see animators have meetings here at these picnic tables. And this area that we see right here is normally filled with an original sculpture or large-scale art design for one of their recent films. For The Incredibles, it was a giant Omnidroid that measured almost to the ceiling. It was a full life-size Omnidroid robot. And for Toy Story 3, they had a life-size, fully functional Ken's Dream House. Just imagine going up Ken's elevator and into his closet full of 70s outfits. The main atrium's also home to Cafe Luxo, Pixar's gourmet craft services, in-house gourmet chefs, on call every day. And all of them serve as consultants for Ratatouille. They also have a company-exclusive store. There I am looking to make an investment in my collection. See that Rex right there? $3,000 on eBay was the peak price.
Whoa, how much was it right there?
50. And then this is just a small sample of their awards. You can see a handful of Oscars, Annie Awards, Golden Globes. There's something from Rotten Tomatoes. There's a Nickelodeon blimp. At the end, you see this bad boy with the Luxo ball on top. Pixar has a tradition of giving out cute awards to tenured animators and employees. After 5 years working for Pixar, you receive a bronze Sheriff Woody statue, and then for 10 years, a silver Buzz Lightyear. Isn't that something?
Is it real silver?
That is debatable, but I wouldn't be surprised if it were. Here's a sample of some of the other artwork on display in the atrium. Over here I am with Rainbow Unicorn from Inside Out, you have Luigi and Guido from Cars, Bo Peep from Toy Story 4. This is actually my lock screen on my phone now. We have The Incredibles and a Lego Buzz and Woody set of statues. These guys were here when I first visited, and they're still in the exact same place when I returned 10 years later. Some more samples. We have concept art from Toy Story 3. There's 10-year-old me, my sister, and my friend Caden right here. I actually met him at the studio during my first visit, and we are still friends to this day. When I send him these video files, he's going to watch now. Hey, Caden! And some more from my last visit. We have Ducky and Bunny and Buzz Lightyear. These are Toy Story 4 era, of course. One I call Distinguished Jessie. And my new favorite character, Duke Kaboom, Canada's greatest stuntman, voiced by Keanu Reeves.
Ooh.
Now the second floor, unfortunately, this was off limits to photography since this is home to animators' offices and art galleries with concept art. A lot of that is not supposed to be shown to the public. That's internal usage only. But I was able to take a snapshot from the bridge looking down onto the atrium. This was during my third visit. You can tell there's the Monsters University, concept art with Sully and Mike on campus. And for those who have visited Trentoniana at the Trenton Free Public Library, this is actually Roebling wire. Trenton made Roebling wire that now holds, actually is the same kind of wire that holds the Golden Gate Bridge. This particular gallery was themed to the fraternity house, Squishy's living room from Monsters University. There were, all the picture frames were stylized as concept art for the characters. I had the sofa with the really 80s looking chandelier and the Party Central woven coasters. I ended up snagging a few for my own collection. And up here, this door leads to Pixar's render farm. Computers, Linux, Windows, Mac, all of the above running 24/7, rendering countless frames of animation. This was the only element of the studio that was open during the pandemic when everything shut down, the animators were remote. Only render farm staff were allowed in the building. And before I continue, I have to make mention, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Pixar's screening room back here. Their main theater is just beyond these two doors. When you're watching a feature film at Pixar, you really get into it. Their projectors are all capable of 3D, so yes, I did get to see Toy Story 3 and 4 in full 3D. When the house lights darken, the ceiling illuminates in stars, literal stars. You see two shooting stars dart past. That's how you know you're in for the experience. Now that's all for the main building just yet. Now we move on to the Brooklyn building, which is Pixar's newest construction. This was under construction when I first visited and opened a year later in 2011.
That's not actually in Brooklyn because there's palm trees.
That's not actually in Brooklyn. The vibe of the studio, they've named it after parts of New York City, like the Steve Jobs building, zones are renamed the Upper West Side, Lower East Side. Their archives building is the West Village, and the Story building, which we're about to get into, is named after Brooklyn, all after the boroughs of New York City. You wouldn't be at Pixar if you didn't have a seagull shouting at you, "Mine, mine, mine." Just like the Steve Jobs building, they also have an open atrium for conventions and meetings like this. At the end right here, this is actually Jeff Pigeon. He has been with Pixar since before the very first Toy Story. He's also the voice of the aliens. Yes, the three-eyed aliens from the Claw Machine. You've saved our lives. We are eternally grateful. The Claw.
That's the dude?
Yep, that's him. But of course, he inhaled helium to do his lines.
Wow, that's the guy with the beard.
Yep. He's as old as my father, by the way.
And his name is Jeff Pigeon?
Jeff Pigeon, yes.
Like the bird?
Like the bird, yes.
You can't write this stuff.
This is where it's from, is where it happens. Since Story also happens here, you see we have some concept art from For the Birds, the short film with the birds on the telephone wire. Got early Marlin and Nemo over here. And character maquettes. These are Toy Story 3, Woody, Buzz, and Jessie. You have Ada and Flick from A Bug's Life, and an early model of Doc Hudson from Cars. And when you're at Pixar, you don't know who you're going to meet. I've met a handful of some famous faces. There's 10-year-old me with Lee Unkrich, director of Toy Story 3, during my first visit. And for my most recent, there's my aunt and me with the late Ed Asner, voice of Mr. Fredricksen from Up, Bob Peterson, the voice of Doug from Up, Mr. Ray from Finding Nemo, and Roz from Monsters, Inc. You didn't file your paperwork last night, Wazowski. Don't let it happen again.
That's that dude?
That's this dude right here.
Really?
And it just so happened that the day that I showed up for that visit, they were recording dialogue for the Doug Days series that's on Disney Plus right now. Of course, Disney Plus was just announced at the time, and then several pandemic delays later, here we are. It was the day that they were recording their dialogue, was the day I happened to visit. That's why they were there at the same time. And let's not forget, Tom Bergeron from ABC's Dancing with the Stars just happened to be there. For a reason I don't even know. Tom Bergeron from Dancing with the Stars. I recognized him immediately. My aunt actually had to sneak these photos because I was too involved in everything. A lot of the photos with me and Bob and Mr. Bergeron, my aunt had to sneak those because I was getting really into it. Now our tour comes to an end for right now, but this isn't the end. You all have a friend in me, Mr. Pixar himself. Of course, I had to get the money shot before I left, and now I have that photo on canvas, which is on display now in my campus town apartment. You all have a friend in me. Thank you all for joining me.